Hello friends, this is Carrie and welcome back to I Like Reddit channel. I hope you all are staying safe and healthy. Today we have 3 stories out of the Entitled Parents subreddit. Let's begin. Our first story is by Destructive Goddess. My mom thinks my sister is entitled to my grandparents' will, so this is generally a long story dating back 8 or 9 years ago from the beginning until now. I'll throw a bit of context here to help you understand this situation a little bit better. My grandparents on my father's side of the family are really well off in wealth, and practically own all of the land within the small city environment that was inherited from my grandfather's father before him and split between him and his 2 siblings. They do business in renting out land to companies, farmers, and homeowners. From my understanding, this has brought my grandfather's life worth up to roughly $2.8 billion within his lifespan before he passed away. My grandparents encouraged a lifestyle where we need to make our own way within the world, but they're willing to help us out with certain expenses, such as school funds, rent, home ownership, and sometimes even smaller things like vet bills, shopping, etc. Now we can get onto the story. So about roughly 9 years ago now, my sister had graduated from high school and had earned a 2-year scholarship to her dream college, but couldn't afford much more than that and wouldn't be able to buy anything she needed for those 2 years. Our grandparents had graciously decided to help her out with funding. They paid for her dorm room, her transportation fees, her books, her food ticket, and everything else she would need for the 4 years or so that she attended, even granting her extra money for anything else she might want to do on the sidelines or anything she might need for school. This included monthly paychecks for gas and extra food. So my mom gave her her old car, and my grandparents paid for everything else she'd need, and she was off for her college experience. Throughout her 4 or so years of college, my sister changed her major 3 times, failed to graduate because of the constant changing of her classes, and spent a good majority of her money on partying and hauling her friends around, taking everyone out to expensive restaurants and eating out often. There was a time during her years of attending college where my grandparents had overpaid. They forgot they had paid for the year's dorms and classes already and sent in a double payment, where the school decided to refund the money, but sent it to my sister instead of back to them. She never bothered to ask about where the money came from or who it belonged to. She just decided to waste an extra 12 grand that she got back on partying and eating out more often than she had before. Because more money, right? This greatly upset our grandparents because she had stolen their money without bothering to ask them about it to begin with, as she was supposed to return it to them, and this was her first mistake that she had made with them. By the end of her last year, she was supposed to graduate, still had a ceremony, but didn't graduate any specific class/job choice. Everyone decided to join together and help her celebrate her time and effort in school. We're talking about maybe 20 people who flew in from all over the country to join her. This included great aunts, great uncles, cousins, our aunt, our dad and stepmom, our stepmom's grand crotch goblins, and finally, our grandparents themselves. It's likely, although not specifically known of, that our grandparents had paid for everyone else's travel expenses, including plane tickets, hotel rooms, and more. Our grandpa was in very poor health at the time already. He never traveled because it was hard on him. Strapped to an oxygen tank and wheelchair bound at the time, for them, it had been roughly a 9-hour drive to the college, which was located high up in the mountains, which only made it harder for our granddad to be there. So everyone had gathered together from far and wide to help her celebrate achievements and congratulate her personally. But my sister was in a pissy mood from the very beginning, and conveniently decided to have a mental breakdown, which was basically her throwing a temper tantrum, and she basically, in short words, decided to just say, F this, and she blew everyone else off and avoided them like the plague. She talked to our dad and our stepmom, and that was basically it. She refused to talk to our grandparents and ignored everyone else who had shown up before leaving the campus. I spent time with our grandparents and our other relatives in her stead, because holy hell, this was so rude. Even I hate her for that. And then I left with our mom to help her finish packing up her dorm room so that she could move back to the city. Which, by the way, she didn't help us. She just sat there huffing and being pissy the entire time. We hauled everything everything out to her car. So we finished packing and we got a phone call from our grandmother who said that we all needed to meet up with them at XX place because they had all gathered together at the hotel they were staying at to throw a very expensive party to celebrate with her. But my sister decided to ignore them and went to visit Dad instead at his hotel shortly before making a straight drive back down into the city. This was her second mistake, which greatly pissed off our grandparents and relatives. She didn't give a flying hoot. So a few years passed by. My sister never really cared nor tried to keep in contact with our grandparents. Save for one time she approached them to show off her boyfriend, and Nani had torn into her over how disrespectful and rude she had been, to which my mother defended my sister and lied about the money she stole had been her own. And eventually, in October of 2017, my grandfather started ailing beyond the point of returning. His body was starting to fail, and he was getting ready to pass on. We had to force my sister to join us and visit him one last time before he passed. He had passed away on the 17th. He, deliberately we believe, cut off oxygen supply to let him go after all their family and friends had gotten to say goodbye for the last time. So now it was just Nani, and I swear every time I visited her, which was often, after he first passed, she was going off about my sister stealing from them and being disrespectful, and how my mom is trying to cover for her. And I knew, it wasn't anything new to me. My mom was always defending my sister's every actions, good or bad, but I did everything to try and gently tell her to let it go, that it wasn't worth clinging onto because it'd only stress her out and make her unhappy and miserable if she did. She didn't want to let it go, and I doubt it was over money in general. I believe it was more because of her disrespectful attitude and coldness towards them. Granddaddy had a will written out that granted all of us, even my sister at first, roughly $150,000 to $280,000 in a trust fund that would continue to grow over the years, but wouldn't be accessible to us until after Nani died. And well, I guess 3 years later, she still hadn't been able to let go of the incident because we had gotten a letter in the mail from the lawyer about a week ago saying that Nani removed my sister from the will. I don't blame her for it. My sister's a real piece of work. She's money hungry, spoiled, just bad in general. She's my mom's little angel, so she gets away with everything and never has to think or care about anything she does. My mom got so angry about the letter, though, that she actually threatened to sue my grandmother for removing my sister off the will. She went as far as to call my grandmother to bitch about it, but chickened out of going off on her because Nani is just one of those people you don't want to piss off. She instead demanded that I share my portion of the will with my sister, and I told her no. She's an idiot. My sister deserves this, and I'll never see it as anything otherwise. She only ever visited for money, and she never bothered to speak to them otherwise either. Whether they accepted her warmly or not didn't matter. She was extremely rude and never felt any remorse for her actions towards them or anyone else in the family. I don't blame her for removing my sister. As of now, it's her money, and it's her right to remove my sister if she feels it's necessary to do so. My mom is an idiot for wanting to take her to court over it. My mom has never seen a problem with how disrespectful and rude my sister has been and continues to be, and that's exactly why she was removed. My grandma says that Granddaddy did it before he passed. Whether that's true or not, I doubt it honestly. But in any case, I don't blame her. My sister is like our parents. Greedy, money-hungry, and selfish people. Edit. I'll be turning off notifications and stop responding to responses because it's absolutely wrecking my phone battery. I just wanted to clear up a few things here first, as I've seen them often in responses. 1. My mom is not at all considered part of the family. She has no part in the will, so she can't give my sister crap. 2. No, I don't live a lavish lifestyle just because my grandparents are wealthy. They still believe in hard work, and my grandma doesn't throw money around just for anything. She'll help pay for schooling, and sometimes small things like rent if you get an apartment. But aside from this, we all have to work for everything we own. This money is in a trust fund that nobody can access until she dies, and even then it's linked, meaning it affects all of our accounts if someone withdraws. To encourage us to continue working and make our own way in life. We can withdraw money, but we have to pay it back, like a loan, and it diminishes the amount that will continue to pay back into the account as the years go on. This was done purposely because they didn't want us to be freeloaders who never worked a day in our lives. It was encouragement to live for ourselves and make our own way in the world. 3. Yes, I will talk to my grandmother about the $1 thing. I'm sure she knows what she's doing already. She's a smart woman. If you've been watching until here and are enjoying my content, please put some heart emojis in the comment section down below. Our next story is by NannyLyn62. You owe me $1,200. When I was 17, I purchased 10 ounces of silver from my high school art teacher. I believe I paid under $20 for it. I had shown this to my mom when I came home from school. However, that night my heavy-handed father once again got drunk and beat me up for the last time. He said that my being anti-war was un-American and I needed a beating. I left home that night, took my clothes, a few keepsakes, some books, and the silver. I left quite a few belongings behind in the closet in my room, belongings that my parents refused to let me retrieve in later years. I got most of it back when they died, but things like my first Barbie in its original box and Chatty Cathy doll were gone. But I digress. This was back in 1967. By 1980, I had been married for 5 years. My sister had come by to visit and told me that she had just been to see our mom and dad. She also told me that they were frantically tearing through the closet in my bedroom and wouldn't tell her why. I just shrugged at this because our parents were odd, to say the least. About 10 minutes after she told me, my mom called me. Mom didn't even say hi when I answered the phone. She just frantically asked me where I had put the silver that I had purchased. It took me a while to remember just what silver she was talking about. When I finally remembered, I told her that I had made all of that into jewelry over a decade before. This really pissed her off. She screamed at me to stop lying. She said that she had been looking for that silver all day. I was still puzzled, so I asked her why. That was when she told me that the price of silver was nearly $50 an ounce. And at that moment, she knew that I had several ounces of it, and I needed to tell her where it was right now. I again told her that it was all gone. I had made rings and pendants with it and had given it away to my friends, and even sold some. She then freaked out. All 25 ounces of it? It was 10 ounces and it was 13 years ago, I said. She really came unglued. She said that she and my dad were counting on the $1,200 because my youngest brother needed it for his kids, and that I was being selfish. Then she decided that I owed her $1,200 because I didn't leave the silver at her house as I should have done. I reminded her that it wasn't 25 ounces and it was only 10, and that I had purchased it with my own money, so it had been my property and I owed her, my dad, and my bratty ass youngest brother nothing at all. This angered her further. She told me that I would be hearing from their lawyer, and then she slammed the phone down. She would have hated cell phones because you can't slam them. I never did hear from her lawyer, at least not that time. In fact, I never heard another word about that stupid silver. The price went back down just a day or so later. It had been a weird fluke that just made it soar in price like that anyway. I mean, you can't just go and get instant market value for metals like that, can you? I wouldn't think that precious metals brokers would want to risk their money on a fluke. I'm just sure that her dread lawyer told her this, as well as telling her that she had no case, if she ever talked to him at all. Our final story is posted by TreeStar2018. Another tale of entitled daycare parents from a daycare director. At the daycare I work at, we currently have a client who never would bring in a spare change of clothes for her child, 5 female. We would always tell her that her child needed the spare clothes, but mom would always forget to bring them. Or she is on her cell phone when she picks her up and doesn't attempt to listen to what we tell her. When her child would have an accident, we would put her in spare clothes that belongs to the daycare and tell the mom that she needs to bring them back. We stopped doing that about a month ago because the mom would never bring the spare clothes back. So we started calling her every time the child had an accident and told her that she needed to bring in some clothes for her to change into. Finally, the mom started bringing in an extra set of clothes for her because she was tired of us calling her at work. On Friday, when she dropped off her child, we noticed the child was wearing some of the daycare's spare pants that she had previously been sent home in. We checked the child's cubby, and she had a spare skirt because the mom had finally started to listen to us about her needing spare clothes. So I told the teacher to have her change into the skirt, and we washed the pants that belonged to the daycare. When the mom came to pick her up, she asked why she was wearing different clothes. We told her the pants were ours, and so we changed her into some of her own clothes. The mom had a royal fit about how unprofessional we are and how we don't care about her child, and that we should have never asked her for the pants back. We told her that we have a limited amount of spare clothes, and that's why we keep reminding her that she needs to bring them back. She told us that she was too busy at night picking up her kid to fully listen to us, and we obviously have a lot of spare clothes, and we didn't really need them back. We told her we had a limited amount of spare clothes, and that's why we kept reminding her that she needs to bring them back. She then stormed out and said that she would never bring her kid back to us if we were going to make such a big fuss about her keeping our spare clothes. It's a shame that she forgot that she has to give us 2 weeks notice before removing her child. I'm sure she'll just love the tuition owed letter she will be receiving from me this week. That's all the stories I have for today. Links to the original Reddit posts will be in the description box below. Please stop on by Reddit to show the OP some love and an upvote. If you enjoy my content, please comment, like, and subscribe to my channel. Don't forget to hit the bell notification to let you know when I've uploaded new videos. Thank you for watching and have a great day.